What's up, guys? We are back for another Star Wars Vintage Collection review, taking a look today at three relatively recent exclusive figures that are not really related to each other in any way. So today we're taking a look at the previously Walmart exclusive, then online exclusive Island Journey Rey figure. And we've got a look at the actually Walmart exclusive Mimban Stormtrooper, and we've got a look at our Elite Clone Trooper here, which is another online exclusive. These guys, of course, all come in the standard vintage collection packaging. You've got the very vintage-inspired backer cards, figures on the bubble, and then you've got cross-sell on the back, which is a little uninspired. I wish these guys would have bios or some kind of write-up on the back of these things instead of just the kind of generic cross-sell. But what are you going to do? So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here they are out of the packaging. So we've got our three very unrelated exclusive vintage collection figures. We've got our Island Journey Rey here on the left, Mimban Trooper in the middle, and then we've got the 41st Elite Clone there on the right. So obviously these guys really have nothing to do with each other. Just the fact that they're exclusives are what made me want to lump them all together. So we're going to run through each one of them individually, talk about articulation, sculpt, paint, and then we'll circle back around and take a look at accessories. So we're going to start with Rey, and I'm going to take the soft goods off of her, so we're going to talk about those first. So we've got her kind of poncho thing going here, and honestly, at this scale, I think this works pretty well. It's got a nice tight fit on it. It's got the little hood, but it's not really meant to be put up on her, so it just kind of hangs down a bit, and it does hang pretty nicely. It's just long enough. It's not too long, and I think it works really well. So if you want to do, you know, a clothed poncho Rey versus one that doesn't have it, you've got two options here, both of which end up being pretty good. So you just pop it off, and then of course this does help in aiding articulation in a movement there. So we've got her here. Head is on a ball peg, so down, up, side to side rotation. Arms go out, they rotate. You've got a single jointed rotating elbow there, and then you've got rotating wrists here as well. We've got a waist twist. She does have a rubbery jacket type thing, so it does get in the way. It does hit a little bit, but it's not too bad. Legs go out, they kick forward, they kick back a little bit, and then you've got a thigh cut there, and you've got a single rotating knee, and then you've got hinges and rotation down there at the ankle. So it's pretty standard. I mean, it's nothing too crazy. It's exactly what you might expect. All of these figures are pretty similar in some of their articulation schemes. They move pretty well for a figure of this scale for sure. And you can get her into some good enough poses, especially in when it comes to doing lightsaber wielding poses. Now, as far as the sculpt and the paint here, I'm pretty happy with this figure. All things considered, I think we've got a pretty solid package. That said, I do wish they had waited on this figure until they implemented photoreal at this scale, because while I do think she looks pretty good, and this is a pretty solid 3 3/4 inch Rey Daisy Ridley figure, I feel like the face is kind of lacking knowing what we could be getting. That said, I do think this does look pretty decent. And overall, I like this figure. I like this particular look for Rey. I like the arm wraps. I like the sleeveless jacket thing she's got. It's like a sort of jacket vest almost, which I really like. I like the big shoulder pads on it. I like her hairstyle here. And everything is just clean and nicely contained. There's not a ton of paint on this figure. There is some, but a lot of what you see is actually molded plastic, which works out pretty well at the end of the day. So I'm overall really happy with the way she looks. And that said, you know, I do like the fact that we do have this face painted really nicely. I do again think that we probably would have gotten something better in photoreal, but I am happy with what we got. And then of course you have also, you know, you've got the aforementioned poncho here, which I think really works well. I'll probably display her with the poncho on. I like that look for her, but even if you don't want to go that route, I think you've got a solid contender here without it anyway. Now for our Mimban Trooper, I am really happy with this figure. This is the one I was looking forward to the most out of this grouping of three. Just something about this type of trooper really does it for me. Having gotten the figure arts and the Black Series and now this guy, this definitely works for me. So let's take a look at how he moves around. He moves really well, honestly. Head goes up, down, side to side really well. There's a lot of attitude there. Rotation, arms go out, swivel. You've got a single hinged elbow with rotation. You've got rotating and hinged wrist. He has an upper diaphragm cut here, side to side, really nicely back and forth, rotation.
The legs, you can swivel them. You have to rotate in this joint, so they'll go out and then they'll go forward. You do have to watch this little pouch here. You'll hit it, and then you can rotate up there. You've got a single rotating knee here, and then you've got rotation and hinge down at those ankles. So, you know, pretty standard really for the line, but it's executed pretty nicely here, and I don't have any real gripes about how this guy moves around. Of course, where he really does it for me is in the looks department. So, of course, we've got, for the most part, a very standard Stormtrooper here, but with the, you know, added armor plating at the forehead. And, of course, this guy is just gunked up and dirtied, and he's been wading through the Mimban mud for who knows how long. But I think that this one looks really, really nice. I'm really happy with how he turned out. Again, he's articulated very nicely, so of course that adds to the enjoyment factor here, because I do think he's sculpted really well. I do think he looks pretty imposing too, especially with that big forehead on him. It's something about him makes him look a little beefier, a little more intimidating. And then you have the poncho, and it's you know, of course, wrapped around each arm, which I really like the way this attaches. So it's not something that's you know, going to get in the way. It doesn't really seem to hinder his movement in any way. It's not really meant to be like folded up on him or anything like that. It's just kind of here to drape down. And at first I thought he had maybe too much material on him, but really it just hangs nicely. It was just kind of wonky when I got him out of the package, but it just kind of flattened itself down, and you know, it sits very well. So as far as sculpt and paint goes, I'm really happy with it. I like the weathering. I like the dirtiness. I like how it's worse at the bottom and it gets slightly cleaner at the top. He's still very dirty, but it makes sense that his knees and his feet and his shins would be the worst aspect of the figure, and I think they did a good job of just kind of bringing out that thought that he's been knee-deep in mud for a really long time, and it comes through very nicely with this paint job. And lastly, we've got our 41st Elite Core Clone Trooper, and I'm a big fan of clones. I'm a big fan of Phase 2 clones specifically, so I was really looking forward to this one. He moves around pretty normally for the line, I'd say. So the head can swivel back, forth. He, of course, has a removable helmet, so the helmet will impede articulation a little bit, but not too bad. Arms go out, they rotate. You've got your single jointed rotating elbow. You have got your hinges and your swivel at the wrist. And then you've got an upper diaphragm, so side to side pretty well, back and forth. He goes forward pretty nicely, and then swivel. And then you've got the legs that go out. They kick forward, they kick back. If you rotate at the thigh up there in the actual joint, and then you've got a thigh cut as well. You've got your single but rotating knee, and then you've got your hinges and your rotation at the ankles. Some of my joints on this figure were honestly kind of tight. They still are. It's not like that's stopped specifically since I started filming. And it's not a real deal breaker or anything, just have to loosen him up a bit. So he moves pretty well. I'd say he's close to being like what the Mimban Stormtrooper is, but doesn't move quite as well. Now, as far as the overall look and feel of this figure, I like the idea behind this one because they went with a certain kind of clone here. The 41st has multiple types of clones. Like Commander Gree is in the 41st, so he has green company, so they're obviously green. This guy's gray, and I think there's at least one other color. So they're a little different. There's different types of clones in this very large core of clones. So they went with one specific type, which I like. I think it works really well. And I do like the paint job here. I do have a couple gripes with this figure that mostly lie from the neck up. From the neck down, I think he's painted really nicely. In kind of comparison to the Mimban, which has a lot of paint on it, it's all, you know, dirt and grime and dinginess. This guy has a lot more calculated paint in the sense that he's got specific design work on his armor, and I do like the line work on here. I like the gray and the white. I think it works really, really nicely. It's just a nice kind of stark white look with those gray accents. It works for me. And then you've got the bucket here at the top, which I do think is a little oversized. If I have one real gripe now, it's that I think the helmet is slightly oversized just because of the fact that it's got a removable helmet. So it's got to be a little bit bigger to accommodate a head underneath. But I do think the paint job on this is pretty nice. So we've got that going for it. But then you can pop this guy off and you see what I'm talking about here. We've got this head sculpt here, and I just don't think it looks all that great, and I also think it looks really small. I get a very like Beetlejuice shrunken head kind of thing when I look at this guy. I also don't think he looks like a clone in any capacity. So for my money, despite the fact that the paint job on this head is actually pretty nice, I just don't think it looks like a clone. I'm always going to go with the helmeted look. Now for accessories, if you count the Clone Trooper helmet, we've got 2 for each figure, and I suppose we should count that. I just don't think it's going to be used as one for me. It's going to be part of the figure. But we've got for Rey, we've got the Skywalker Saber. So we've seen this a number of times. And then we've got her little blaster pistol, which can be holstered. We have got the Stormtrooper blaster rifle for our Mimban. And then we've got the big the sniper rifle kind of rifle for our Mimban Trooper, which I think is the star of the show. This is the best accessory out of the bunch. It's just really, really nicely done. And you can hook it around his shoulder to kind of hold on to it while he's also holding his regular gun. I always like being able to have all accessories present at any time. And then for our clone, we've got our standard clone style blaster rifle over here. So they've got exactly what they need. They don't really have anything less. I don't know what else I could have asked for, and I think everything that's kind of presented here works really well for these figures. I don't have any complaints in the accessory department. So at the end of the day, outside of the fact that I have a few gripes about that clone trooper and the big head, small head situation, I think this is a pretty solid group of vintage collection figures. I'm glad I'm finally really opening the newer stuff because I'm excited about what they have been putting out recently. They're getting very, very strong with their releases lately, and I'd say that these make for some pretty good exclusives. I still say that the Mimban is definitely the winner of the bunch. If it's fair to compare the three of them, which it really isn't, the Mimban wins for me just in sculpt and paint. The overall presentation, it really kills it. Rey is still a solid figure, although again, I think we could have gotten a better one down the road with photoreal. And then, of course, we've got the head thing going on with the clone trooper, but it's still a fun figure, and it's still a Phase 2 clone, so it's really hard to complain too much about that because I am such a sucker for that style. So overall, I'd say if you're even remotely interested in any of these, to check them out. So that's going to do it for this look at a smattering of exclusive vintage collection figures from Hasbro. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.